Hey, up me duck YouTube, welcome back to another video, and this one is mid-season prediction review, and I would say a lot of them are probably not going to be right. Please don't take offence at any of these predictions, after all they are only predictions and are unlikely to come true, but have a good laugh along the way. So, let's start off with the Premier League. This is where I predicted Leeds would finish last. Well, Leeds currently aren't on form to finish last, but you could argue they aren't very consistent. I did say that they would concede a lot of goals. You could argue that's correct with a -5 goal difference. So, yeah. I think they've been a bit figured out, really, Leeds. They're currently 14th, but they are only a matter of points. I think they're only something like 8 points off being relegated. So, yeah, I'm not a million miles off if they do get relegated, but it depends how quickly Bielsa manages to find a way to get a bit of better form, really, and try and find a way to stay on. 19th got Southampton, and this was very, very, very wrong. They're currently third. The main reason I actually thought was I think the players could have got injured, which they've seemed to be injury free. But the main thing I was thinking was I thought Danny Ings was going to be brought out by another bigger team, and he wasn't. And so, looking in hindsight now, if he was still there, Southampton would have finished a lot better. And he is there, and they are higher. But of course, if he's injured, I do worry where the goals come from. But in terms of me putting them 19th, way out. Crystal Palace 18th. So when I was actually making these predictions, it did look incredibly likely that Crystal Palace were going to be relegated. They were in a shocking run of form towards the end of the season. Zaha was going to be signed by a lot of people by the sounds of it, which he wasn't, to be fair. And Roy Hodgson is actually getting the best out of his players. And Benteke has actually started scoring, to be fair. So they have turned their form around. They could still be relegated, but I think they will survive this season at this point now. 17th is Fulham. This is a team which is actually currently bang on 17th. They have now got they sort of know the league. I sort of said, I think they should be able to grind out wins, and they should be able to finish where I predicted them. Mitrovic, as I said, is a great scorer, and probably a bit like Jack Grealish last season, will be able to keep them up. 16th, Burnley. Not far away either, to be fair, because they're currently 18th. They are only 3 points off with a game in hand. This is against Arsenal, to be fair. They can grind out wins, but of course they lack goals. That's what I was said at the beginning of the season, and that seems to be true. Now, the fact they have the greatest defence is probably a bit of an overstatement now, but they still do have a good defence. Nick Pope is still in goal, so it's whether they can find the killer instinct and enough to stay up, find enough goals from somewhere. Matty Vidra and Chris Wood need to sort of turn on the form. But I think I'm not a million miles away. I think they will eventually click. 15th, I went with Aston Villa. Now, this was interesting because I don't think anyone predicted Aston Villa to be currently 10th. I did go out a bit of a limb and say 15th. I thought that was pretty reasonable, that they'd survive and be a bit more comfortable than they were last time. And it was actually kind of depending on whether Jack Grealish would stay, and he did. So they also brought in another striker before the end of the window. They brought in Ollie Watkins, I think it was. Was it? Let me just. I think it was Ollie Watkins. Yeah, they brought in Ollie Watkins and they now shot up the league. So clearly better. 14th for Port Everton. Now, Everton last season didn't look convincing. They always in recent years seem to be mid-table. So I didn't know really where to put them in the mid-table scrap, and I did think Richarlison would be good. I didn't predict them to be 7th though, so they have done a lot better than I thought. I hadn't really heard of James Rodriguez before, to be fair. So seeing him play, you can now tell that probably be a bit higher end of mid-table. They're still doing ridiculously well for the team. I think that just come down to the management, to be fair. 13th for Newcastle, an interesting Newcastle company 11th. So very much not far away, to be fair, mid-table. And so they will end mid-table because they have no new owners. So Joelinton has been really dropped, and Callum Wilson has sort of taken his mantle, and they seem to be doing all right. And they've still got Alan Saint-Maximin in place, so I think it is still reasonable where I put them 13th, I think, towards the end of the season, maybe. 12th, I've got Arsenal, and to be fair, they're 15th. So again, it could happen. They are only 4 points from this position with the game in hand at the moment. They are poor in defence because of David Luiz and Socrates and other players. They've been very poor in defence this season. A lot of people have been saying. I think they have been a bit overhyped by winning the FA Cup, and I still stand by that. I mean, look at them now. And Aubameyang was potentially on the cards of leaving at that point when I made this prediction. He's obviously stayed, but he's not hit form. So either way, they're still going to end up mid-table, I think. They could well end up relegated. A lot of my people have potentially been saying, oh, we're going to get relegated. I don't think they will. Arsenal too good to be relegated. 11th, I went with West Ham. And currently, West Ham is 6th. So they're better than I thought. They were inspired by almost relegation. And they will have a good start of the season, which would look like a European position. I said it at the beginning of the season. I've not just made this up. You can go and watch the video. I said they will look in European position at the beginning of the season. And where are they? 6th. So 11th, I think, will be reasonable at the end of the season. I've brought in lots of players to help strengthen the squad. I did say Mikel Antonio will be contender for the Golden Boot. He's actually been really good this season. So, West Ham fans, I kept the faith, and I think you will end up mid-table. 10th, I went with Brighton Hove. Now, this was quite badly wrong. They are currently 16th. There is a possibility. They are only 8 points off at the moment. They have, I think, fans when they have come back in, that's really going to help them change their form. I think they've had fans back in, and they haven't been too dodgy in recent times. They've picked up a total of 5 points in the last 4 games. So they've not looked bad, and they do have a decent defence. And have maintained the core of their squad. The scorer of Neil Maupay, he's not been that good, to be fair, and so that's probably why they're so low. But I still expect them to finish mid-table at the end of the season. 9th, I went with West Bromwich Albion. Okay. I got a lot of stick for this in the comments, and I understand why. West Brom are currently 19th, 10 positions down. The main reason I went for this because there's always this team which manages to get it from a championship and end up mid-table somewhere, and they do very well. Last season, a couple of seasons ago was Watford. Last season was Sheffield United. And this always seems to happen with one of the Championship teams who come up. I said West Brom Albion. I didn't really want to say Leeds because I don't really like Leeds, and I didn't think Fulham would be the team to do it. So I went with West Brom. But as we can tell, there's not been any real standout teams apart from Leeds as being a bit better than the other two, but none which have really gone and pushed up over the top. 8th, I've gone with Leicester City. Now, they're currently 5th, and it's only a 1 point gap, to be fair, between 8th and 5th. So certain results go against them. There could certainly be. I wouldn't wipe out 8th. I did say Jamie Vardy wouldn't score as many goals. He is scoring goals, to be fair. I still don't think it would be enough for them to consistently rely on him. But I do know love a league. And I did actually say they would do well to the start of the season, but that Europe would provide an unwanted distraction. Oh no, I said they'd start well at the end of the season, sorry. I thought they'd do badly at the start of the season. So clearly got that wrong. So I think Leicester could potentially get higher now. I think 5th would be all right for most Leicester fans, I think they'd say. I did actually say they'd win the FA Cup, so we'll see how likely that is to come true later on, but it's certainly interesting. 7th, I went with Wolves because very much a team which seems to be finished 7th. Wolves are actually currently 12th, but they are only 3 points off. So, again, not hard. I say, injuries could end up hampering Wolves because Nuno is a bit consistent in his lineup, and he has actually changed his lineup a bit recently. But I think they will finish around about 7th. They may finish a bit lower this season, but I think they will find a way to push up the table. 6th, I went with Chelsea. They're currently 4th, only 2 places in it at the moment. I do think that Frank Lampard has been a bit overhyped. And to be fair, the defence I thought was actually personally awful, but I think they've actually turned it around a bit. They still have squad rotation, so will lack consistency. I think they will scrape the European position, as I said. They may actually scrape Champions League. I did actually say they will reach the Champions League final because they have easy draws and stuff going on throughout. We'll see, because they do have a good squad. It's whether they can do well in it. And I've just been informed there's been an equaliser for Crystal Palace. So they've now gone up to 11th. So that's very interesting. 5th, I went with Sheffield United. Okay, they're currently 20th. It's not going to happen. I'm not even going to try and justify the 20 points off. There's no way. I think I was a bit kind of swayed by where they finished last season, because I think they finished 8th or something. I think they really missed the fans, and I think the squad have just not been performing as well. But so I would say they're more likely to be relegated now in a European position. That's one which I can scratch off as definitely not going to happen. 4th with Manchester United, which isn't actually that insane now, because they are only 2 points off. Because Man United have been strong. I think they will finish in Champions League. I can see it happening. Whether it be 4th or whether it be 3rd, don't entirely know. Because I think they have a good squad depth to keep them there. They're still very poor in defence, though. But I think they're still better than Chelsea or Arsenal in defence. At that time, Chelsea have seemed to have decent defence. But Manchester United definitely up there and around. very good. Third, I went with Tottenham. Now, it's very interesting because Tottenham are currently top of the league by, and from away from third is 2 points separating them. And I think it was the Jose Mourinho factor was that, because I think he would make a difference to Tottenham. And as you can tell by them being currently first, it clearly has. And they also have a strong side and strength in depth. So in terms of Tottenham finishing third, could they do better than third? Maybe, maybe not. Depends whether Son or Kane get injured. But I do feel that third was a good prediction, thinking about it now. Second, I went with Liverpool. Now, they are currently actually second, so I'm not wrong with what I'm saying. I said they were actually poor at the end after they won the title. This poorness didn't actually continue into next season like I thought it would. I said they will focus on Europe. They're going to have. But I think it's hard to tell. I did say they were going to fail against an underdog team. We'll see about that. I said they will win the EFL Cup, and I don't even know if they're actually still in the EFL Cup. I think they are. I think. Let me just check that. Because I could have sworn they were. I don't think they've been knocked out. In terms of currently, oh no, they have been knocked out. They were knocked out by Arsenal. So it turns out my prediction was wrong with that. It'll be interesting to see who does win the EFL Cup then this season. Because I did think Liverpool were going to win it, but it turns out we didn't. And I did actually say the last thing was they lack the squad depth. So if one of the players getting injured, they would be in form for form. Wow, they had more than one injured, and they still actually managed to do decent. So I think it'd be all right. Manchester City was. I really did not expect them to do this poorly this start of the season. They're currently ninth, and I said they'd be first. But I don't think they have really improved their defence, have they? Nathan Ake not being a player. So I think Pep's on his way out, to be fair. Unless they win the Champions League, I don't see much going with him. It was actually at the time when Lionel Messi said he might move enough, and everyone thought that Manchester City were going to sign him. So, I mean, I kind of had my I think Kevin De Bruyne was ripping it up as well at the same time. So it was one of them things. Would Manchester City finish first in the league? And a lot of people would be like, yeah, well, they had certainly a chance of. Well, and didn't predict them to be ninth. So on to the Championship. Now, the Championship has been known as to be the most unpredictable league in most of it. 24th, Sheffield Wednesday. Only 24th, Sheffield Wednesday. They have actually got their point reduction reduced to 6. So, but that's still a disadvantage. And they will get lots of draws. And they currently have actually had, how many draws have they had? 6 draws. So, not and 9 losses. So, that's fairly poor form at the moment. And struggle to win. Okay, the defence is good, but they only had one recognised striker, and so they brought in Jack Marriott, and Jack Marriott's been injured. They brought in Aidan Flint, and Aidan Flint's been injured. Gary Monk has been sacked, to be fair, so he was a very defensive-minded manager, and I didn't think he'd be sacked, but he has been, and they have now got a better manager. I think I can't remember that they definitely brought in someone good to replace him. I knew they did. Yeah, Tony Pulis. Thought they did. So yeah, they brought in a very good replacement. But the squad, I don't think even Tony Pulis could save them from relegation. And then I went with Huddersfield Town. And Huddersfield are currently 14th. So no, I wasn't really right with this, was I? And they the main reason for that was they were skirting relegation last season a lot, and in my opinion, they were actually one of the worst teams and potentially could have got relegated if it wasn't for Wigan's administration. A couple of results going their favour. They do change managers frequently. I don't know if they've changed one this season. I don't think they have changed this season, but I've heard they may have done. But at the moment, I don't think they have, to be fair. Yeah, I think Carlos Cobaran is their currently manager. So, was that who was manager at the start? I don't think they have changed manager, actually. So, maybe I was wrong with that. But they certainly changed it not last season. When did he yeah, okay. So no, I was wrong. They've not changed their manager much yet. So they do have less fans, but they've not had no fans there. So it'd be interesting. I probably would say they're not going to get relegated now. Wycombe 22nd. They're currently 23rd. They're literally 2 points off where I said they're going to be. Find it hard to adjust to the first time in league? Yeah. Don't have a greater squad depth with almost unknown player? Yeah. Smallest capacity stadium release and not many fans? Yeah. So a lot of things going against Wycombe, to be fair, and I think I was right in predicting them in relegation, and I think they will get relegated this season, maybe even 23rd. 21st went with Rotherham. They're currently 20th by 3 points. So interesting. They always do seem to be close to relegation zone. They're a bit of a yo-yo club, aren't they? I think they'll be in the relegation zone until I thought they were going to be in relegation zone. Turns out they've been really kept out by Derby, to be fair. So I could have seen Nottingham Forest. I don't. I think I was right in predicting it. I think I was very much right. Then I went with 20th with Middlesbrough. And I did say they played boring football. And they've not. They've played incredibly interesting football. They've been very inconsistent recently, to be fair, only picking up 6 points in the last 4 with win, loss, win. They are currently 9th, though, and Neil Warnock has got the best out of them. And I think they have done extremely well. And their defence has actually been solid as usual. But I think they've been better in front of goal than I thought they would be. So 9th, I think, is probably more of a fair reflection now thinking about it. 19th went with Coventry City, and they're currently 18th by 3 points. So that wasn't too bad. I think by the end of the season they will falter a bit and maybe 19th or maybe 20th, depending on Derby and Forest. They do have a lot of young players, so that's for one of them, and inexperience in the league. The various things contributing, but I think they have enough to stay up. I think Coventry fans would be happy if they finish 19th. They are currently higher, but can that consistency carry throughout the season? It'll be interesting to see. 18th, I went with Norwich. Okay, they're first. I get it. I predicted Norwich wrong. Now, the only reason that I actually predicted that is because every season this happens, one of the teams relegated from Premier League drop like a stone. Stoke, Huddersfield, over the last previous 2 seasons, I can think of others as well. QPR, Reading, I think they've been one of them. Some of them teams, Sunderland, all of these Hull, all of these have been sort of. And I did actually think that Pookie would have an off season. And they'd struggled to keep their good players. They managed to keep a lot of their good players, to be fair. And Pookie's not been bad. And so I was probably a bit harsh on Norwich. But in terms of which of the teams I thought was most likely to do badly from the Premier League, it was Norwich, because I thought a lot of their players were going to be taken, but they weren't. 17th, I went with Nottingham Forest. They're currently 21st. So that's actually worse than I predicted them. And it was actually entirely biased opinion, but it turns out to be similar. Because I did say they'd overbought players and it would take ages for them to bond as a team. And wow, they've had how many losses? They've had 11 losses, 4 draws and 3 wins. I know Derby have done slightly worse, but I mean, they certainly. I did say they'd be at mid-table until they start to lose games, 5 under bounce and stuff, and they've already sacked their manager, so I think 17th. I think Nottingham Forest fans will probably take that at this moment in time. But certainly wouldn't believe how realistic it was then. 16th and went Bristol City. They're currently 7th. Now, my logic to that was that they is always going to be mid-table for me, and then we could have been upper mid-table, which you could see it, but I thought they were going to be lower mid-table because I'm really unfortunate to say this, but Chris Martin sort of changed their season. And I thought, because Chris Martin, when he lent on loan to other clubs, hadn't done as well, I didn't think he would do well with Bristol, but he has done. There has been a lot of players released around Bristol. I do think they could well finish lower than 7th. They could well finish higher. They've actually gone loss, win in their last 5 games. So incredibly inconsistent team in terms of personnel. I think they'll do better. 15th, I went with QPR, and they are currently 19th. But they are not far. They're only 5 points, because they do have a strong defence, but they've lost Eze. So they always seem to finish mid-table. So I would expect them probably to get out of this rut at some point in the season and manage to get a bit higher. I was actually thinking that QPR could have finished last, but I then thought that'd be incredibly harsh. And so thinking where I've changed them to, I think that's probably a good prediction. 14th, Birmingham City. Birmingham are currently 16th. So 14th, 16th, not much, 2 points. Very much a team. I think 14th, they've done decently. I think at the end of the season, will they realistically end up in 14th? Potentially, yes. Could finish lower, could finish higher. But 14th, for me, was a good prediction at the time. Luton Town in 13th. They're currently 11th, so I wasn't actually that far away. Lots of draws and lots of 1-0s, but rarely lose. Which probably not so true. They have lost 6 games, but they have won 7 and have drawn 5. So they have been pretty much the definition of inconsistency. And so 13th, I'm happy with placing Luton with 13th. I'm sure most Luton fans probably wouldn't predict it themselves that they'd finish this high. So Millwall 12th. Currently Millwall is 17th. So he does. I think Rowett will get sacked. He's not on the greatest run of form, is he, at the moment? Lost to Derby, and he's just. They've made poor signings, and it's hard to predict where Millwall would finish. I think 12th will realistically be sort of where Millwall would have been happy with. I don't think they'll be happy with 17th though. and I really didn't think they'd be that low down, but they are. So moving on, 11th went with Stoke City, and Stoke City are currently 8th. So again, not that far away. There's only 3 points in it. Looking at the squad, they shouldn't be in relegation scrap, and that's been proved. I think the natural progression would be for mid-table for them, but they seem to be wanting to push to the playoffs. So go for it, I'd say. But they have to depend on the faith in the manager. I think Stoke. They can't sack the manager, even if it turns sour. 11th, decent, I'd say. So yeah, Stoke. I think that's reasonable. At the end of the season, maybe slightly higher, but certainly no lower than 11th. 10th, I went with Swansea, and Swansea are currently 3rd, so they have done a lot better than I thought, because I did actually think they would be pushing for the playoffs, and that Steve Cooper's a good manager. I think they do still need some improvement. I don't think they'll get promoted by the playoffs. I think there's too much good in the current championship, and I think they will drop off at one point in the season. And potentially 10th is incredibly likely. Maybe higher, maybe will finish in the playoffs. Depends if any of the other teams keep up form. 9th, I went with Reading, and Reading are currently 5th. So, again, not too bad. They're a bit inconsistent, but I think they will gather enough wins to make a challenge. They do have a strong trio of strikers in Bulldog, Aluko, and McNulty, and defence is an issue. I wouldn't say necessarily the defence is actually an issue. Looking in hindsight, I don't think they're actually being that bad in defence, but in terms of I think pushing to playoffs is where Reading should be aiming for, and they're currently in the playoffs. Will they finish the season there? Unlikely. Now, for 8th, I went with Barnsley. It seemed mad at the time. They're currently in 13th, and they've won the last 2 games. So I think not bad. It's not a bad prediction, to be fair. 8th. I still don't. I don't think now that Barnsley will finish 8th. I think they probably will finish mid-table, but they could, if they continue getting good results. There's no reason why they couldn't finish 8th. 7th, I went with Preston, and Preston are currently actually 15th, and because they did seem reasonable to me because they do push every year. They had good defence, and look at with Ben Davies, Ben Pearson, Declan Rudd, that they have actually done all right in defence, and they still would stand by that. It's the lack of goals, I think, which has been the core, and there has been a bit of inconsistency. So I don't think 7th they will finish this season, not now. I think 15th is actually probably a fair reflection of where they'd be this season. Now, 6th, I went with Derby, because, I mean, I don't think. There's personal bias that I went with Derby with 6. I didn't think they'd be in the relegation zone, certainly not. They haven't won. They have gone unbeaten over the last 5 games. So things are on the up for Derby in terms of points going their way and stuff. So will they continue that run and get into 6th and do an absolute shocker? No. In terms of things, they didn't strengthen in the attacking department, and therefore my prediction was wrong. I did say if they didn't strengthen in the attacking department, they weren't going to get into 6th. I didn't think we would win the playoffs anyhow. So, but I think 6th for my team was a reasonable prediction at the time. I don't think it is now. 5th, I went with Watford. They're currently 4th, and the only reason 4th is on goal difference. So, yes, very much so what I believe was going to happen. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if Watford sacked their manager recently, but I don't think they have actually yet. I think they've sort of changed their policy on what they were going through managing, like, yeah, I think they've kept Vladimir Ivic, and doesn't seem too bad for them at the moment. They did have a lot of departures, but nobody really, which was ridiculous. I mean, they managed to keep a lot of the players they had, and they had actually managed to keep hold of Will Hughes and Foster, Troy Deeney. So they've managed to keep a lot of the players, and so I think that is very much important. I think fifth is reasonable. They may finish fourth for playoffs. Yeah, I predicted that. Fourth one with Bournemouth, and Bournemouth are currently second, so they did do better than I'd thought. There's only a point in it at the moment. And I did actually said to be promoted via the playoffs because I think they have enough, because they have actually managed to keep good players. They have got a depleted defence, but their attacking threat is what have really surmounted them to get up a table. And fourth, reasonable, maybe higher now, thinking about it. Third, I went with Blackburn. Now, Blackburn are 12th, and Blackburn at the beginning of the season were great. They were absolutely great. They looked like they were going to win the league. The first 5 games, I think, they went really, really well. And they haven't actually, they have been a bit dipping off recently, but they have won 7, lost 7, and drawn 4. So it's not bad. And I did actually say they'd lose the playoff final, but I thought that Adam Armstrong was going to be joint Golden Boot winner with Ollie Watkins. And those who know the championship will know that Adam Armstrong has been ridiculous and has been scoring goals and go well win the Golden Boot. So I think reasonable for me to predict the Blackburn going to be third. Will they now? Probably not. I mean, could reach the playoffs still. You just need to get a bit more consistency. Second, I went with Cardiff City, and they're currently 10th. Their unbeaten run has come to an end over this weekend, but they did before that had 4 games. I think there may have been more, but 4 wins under bounce at least. It was a bit of a settling in season last time, and I thought they were gonna. They went to the playoffs, didn't they, last time? So I thought they were going to build on it and come second, because Neil Harris was good, and Neil Harris became under an enormous amount of strain and pressure actually at the beginning of the season. But no, he has managed to pull it out of the hat, and they've come 10th. Will they get second? Unlikely. Could they reach the playoffs? Maybe. And then first, I went with Brentford, and I thought as long as they keep the squad together, they'd be all right. No, they lost Said Benrahma and they lost Ollie Watkins. So they didn't really keep. And to be fair, I don't. It's just hard to tell you how much, because Ollie Watkins was very much key. I think Ivan Toney has done well. But they didn't keep their players, so they're not going to come first now. I'm afraid to say it, but that prediction was wrong. It was always dependent on keeping. They're currently 5 games unbeaten. I think they may even be further ahead than that. They won 8 games. But will they win the league? Unlikely. Will they finish in the playoffs? Yes. Will they win the playoffs? Depends. Could do. I think they'll reach the final. I don't think they'll win it though. I just don't see it. League One then. Now, this was very, very, very interesting. Just looking at this prediction, how bad it might be. I went with 24th, Crew. And Crew are actually 11th. They're only 10 points off, to be fair. But no, I underestimated Crew. I didn't think they'd adjust to the league well, but they have. So, well done, Crew. David Artell has clearly got the best out of you. And they're clearly scoring enough goals as well. So, yeah, I think Crew, not 24th anymore. I think mid-table. maybe lower mid-table. But yeah, 23rd I went with Wigan, and they're currently 23rd to be fair. So not on the they've won the last two. So, but it was I think. Have Wigan been bought out? I think Wigan have been bought out now. I think, but they've exited. They have exited administration, I believe. Ooh, let's just quickly reading this. Sorry about this. Yeah, I think. Yes, I think. Yeah, I think they've got new owners now. I think it's been confirmed. So the owners have left, but it is very distressing times at Wigan. And I did think it was going to be hard to stay up. They got rid of almost all of their players. No, they're going down. I can't see them staying up. They're going down. 22nd, I went with MK Dons, and MK Dons are actually currently 17th and only 2 points off relegation. And they've been really inconsistent recently. And they haven't got the greatest midfield. They haven't played the long balls as I thought they're gonna do. They've actually been very possession based. So I think MK Dons a bit harsh putting them 22nd. I think maybe if I think about it now, I think they will just survive. But it was certainly touch and go at the beginning of the season for me. 21st, I went with Northampton Town, and they're currently 18th. So again, not really that surprised. It's always difficult when you're coming up with money. How well will they hit the ground running, or will they not? Not hit the ground running, I'd say, but they're not done bad. They have lost 9 games, but they've won 5 and drawn 3. And I think the only reason they're kind of not in relegation zone at the moment is the teams below them have not been the greatest. Did I think that Northampton would considerably go down? Probably not, actually, thinking about it now. I think 18th, they could finish at the end of the season and could be 1 place lower. But relegation, maybe just. 20th, I went with AFC Wimbledon, and that's an absolute ridiculous statement to say now because they're currently 14th. Wimbledon have clicked. They've absolutely clicked, and because they was only winning 1 every 3 games last season, I thought that was a very much reason why they'd find it difficult. But they have brought. They've been a lot better. In the 16 games, they've won 5, drawn 5, and lost 6. So it's literally the meaning of inconsistency. But that is enough. I mean, inconsistency is all right because sometimes you can stay up like that, and I think mid-table, lower mid-table, would be reasonable. I think 19th won with Plymouth Argyle, and they're currently 16th. Will they go down to 19th? They're on a 5-game losing streak at the moment, and they've lost 7 games all season. Will they? It's hard to think. Ryan Lowe does have a winning philosophy, and a lot of people would say Plymouth is going to do really well. They've got a lot of youth. I think they'll survive, and I think they'll survive comfortably. I don't think 19th, but I don't think much higher than that. I think 19th. Lincoln City. Interesting that I went with 18th for them. They're currently 2nd, if you know your league. I didn't think that was going to happen. I really didn't. I knew they play well, and I think they could have got mid-table, but I didn't think they were going to get promoted. I just don't know how to explain it. I didn't think that Lincoln, for mid-table last season, were going to go and rip the league up. And they have. That's all I've got to really say. 17th win Bristol Rovers, and Bristol Rovers are currently 15th, so I wasn't too bad. It's only a point separated. They have got one of the worst win ratios at the moment. And I did expect Ben Garner would be sacked. I don't actually know if he's been sacked, to be fair. Potential he could have been sacked. Yes, he has been sacked. Yes, Ben Garner was sacked. So I did say he would be sacked. And there you go. He has been. He has been replaced. I don't know if he's been sacked or he just left by mutual consent, but Paul Tisdale replaced him. So I was very much correct with the fact he was going to be sacked. And but the academy is decent there. So I think the lack of strikers has really contributed to where they're going to be. I think they will be slightly lower down in the table, but not too much. I think 15th. The 17th is an interesting one. 6th. Go away. Swindon Town, I went with 16th. They're currently 21st. So, no. Didn't see them doing that. They did lose their best striker and top goal scorer last season. So that's probably the reason why they've struggled to stay up this season. Well, are struggling at the moment. Do I think that it could potentially change fortunes? Maybe they could. Maybe. Very hard to see. 15th, I went with Rochdale, and they are currently 20th. So, yes, they could well go up into 15th. Will they at the end of the season? Unlikely. Probably going to be a bit lower than that, but I don't think they'll stay 20th all season. 14th, Shrewsbury Town. They're currently 22nd. They don't normally do this badly, and they are now actually 4 unbeaten. So, will they go get out relegation zone? I'm saying it now. Shrewsbury are not getting relegated. They're not getting relegated, and I think 14th maybe a bit high, but definitely in and around at the end of the season. I think 13th went with Gillingham, and we're currently 12th, and that's by 1 goal. So I'm just going to say, yeah, they're going to stay there. They're a mid-table team. They don't really have much aspiration, I said, and I don't think they do. Honestly, that's what I'm seeing right now. 12th went Doncaster Rovers, and this is interesting because they're currently 7th. So they have been better. I did say they lacked ambition, but I don't think they have lacked ambition because Darren Moore is a good manager, and I did say that, and I said he would get wins. And they haven't got it. They're not currently in the playoffs, but do I think they'll reach the playoffs at the end of the season? Maybe not. I think Sunderland and Fleetwood potentially go. I think maybe 10th at the end of the season. Thinking about it, don't think 12th, but definitely the tail. 11th went with Hull, and they're currently 1st, and they do have dodgy owners, because they would refuse to get stuff, and they've done all right, to be fair, under the circumstances, Hull. So, the next question I'm asking myself, will they win the league? And they could well do. I think it's between them, Lincoln, maybe Peterborough at the moment. I think that's realistically who I'm thinking. Hull definitely won't finish 11th. I think they may get automatic promotion at this point. 10th I went with Blackpool, and Blackpool are currently 13th. So mid-table, yeah. And they do always look like they're going to challenge, don't they? But they are looking more like a mid-table side. And they sort of prove that with getting 13. And one like being unbeaten the last 3. So going up, certainly. on the way up. Will 10th, I think, is realistic, actually. 10th by the end of the season, maybe, yes. Fleetwood Town 9th, they're currently 9th, so pretty much spot on if they manage to stay and maintain their form. At the moment, very interesting. It could actually go higher, up a bit, maybe 8th or 7th. I don't think they'll reach the top 6. I think there'll only be a few points shy, as I said then. I'm the league the same now. 8th, I went with Portsmouth. Probably not likely now. I think Portsmouth will probably finish in the playoffs, because they do frequently finish in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't think they'll get promoted by the playoffs, though. I think Portsmouth are one of them teams which have been stuck in League One for years. Always a successful, though. 7th, Peterborough, and they're currently 4th. So, will they finish 7th at the end of the season? Probably not. I think they'll finish maybe 6th. I think they're not or 5th. I think they will reach the playoffs. As before, I didn't think they would. I think there was 1 point in it, but is that 1 point? It's interesting. We'll see at the end of the season. 6th, I went with Ipswich, and they are currently 6th. I'm prouder to say that. I think they're losing the semi-finals. But I do think the next season, I don't think they'll go up this season, but next season, I definitely think they will go up. There's certainly potential for Ipswich to do well. Will they? Unlikely. It's one of them ones that's interesting. They need a couple of wins and maybe it'll change my mind. But at the moment, I think 6th is a reasonable idea. Oxford, I went with 5th. Now, Oxford have done awful this season. They've come 19th. I mean, they don't normally come this low. They're always in the playoffs, it does seem. So I think they're a bit like Derby this season. They must mirror Derby a bit because they always seem to reach the playoffs and not make it. It's very interesting, but I think I'm going to keep chatting. I think they may have sacked their manager. I think it has been pretty bad. No, they haven't actually. They're keeping Cole Robinson. So that's interesting. That's very much interesting that they decided to stick with him, despite being very difficult. They are now 3 unbeaten, but they've all been draws. So Oxford, interesting one. Definitely not playoffs. Don't think they'll be relegated at the end of the season. Probably lower mid-table. 4th, I went with Burton, who are currently actually 24th, although they are 4 unbeaten. I didn't know what to expect because Jake Buxton, I know he's a defender, he used to play for Derby, and didn't know what to think of him because he's a new manager, so thought we would have had a bit of flair with him. It's interesting. I think there's a bit of over-reliance on Nigel Clough, I think. So maybe it could have gone one of 2 ways, and I think it's gone the opposite way. I think there was a chance to be the playoffs, but I don't think they'll get relegated. They may do. They just need to start picking up more points. They're not far off, to be fair. They are only 3 points off safety, but I don't think 4th now, no. 3rd, I went with Accrington Stanley, and everybody actually laughed, I think, in the comments at me for that. They're currently 10th, so maybe I was a bit stupid and naive to think they would. But at the beginning of the season, they were certainly doing very, very well. They were ridiculously high at the beginning of the season, and it looked like, oh yes, this is going to be one of the ones that got spot on. And they do work well as a squad. Will they finish in the playoffs? No, I think they'll be a bit mid-table now. Maybe 11th. I don't see them getting in the playoffs anymore. 2nd, I went with Charlton. And they're currently 5th. I'd still probably actually go with it. They're only 2 points off. And I do actually think they're a yo-yo club. So Yes, I would go with Charlton. Probably still likely to get second, maybe third. But I think they've done all right. And first, I went with Sunderland, and Sunderland at eighth. And this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, Sunderland. You've done awful over recent years. And I thought it was finally their time to shine, to get promoted. No, I think they've found their niche now, Sunderland. I'm sorry, you're a League One club. It's disappointing to see, but I don't think you're getting promoted this year. I think maybe seventh though. You might not be far off at this point. So League Two, incredibly interesting. I went 24th with Morecambe, and Morecambe are actually currently 10th. So very much wrong in my guessing. It's because they've just survived for the last 2 seasons. And I think the league was actually this season quite hard. And looking at it, it does actually look quite hard, to be fair. So they've actually changed. And I don't know if it's a new manager they've got or what. But they don't really have the greatest goalkeeper. But they've managed to keep decent record. They've got -7 goal difference. So they're not the best in defence, as I thought. At the start of the season, but they're doing well. They're doing well for what they are. I thought they would be relegated. 23rd went with Forest Green Rovers, and they're 4th. So that is definitely wrong. Because I thought they got really lucky. Because I thought they had an incredibly hard start of the season against Bolton, Bradford City, and Salford. But no, I think they managed in their first few games to do really well and push on quite high up. So they're actually on a really good run. They've won 9 of the 17 games. So I'm sorry, Sir Forest Green. I'm gonna have to admit you've done better than I thought. Will you finish in the playoffs? Maybe not 4th, but maybe in the playoffs certainly. 22nd, I went with Carlisle. Again, another stupid one. League Two seems to be rubbish for me because they're currently 3rd. I don't know how I've managed this or how Carlisle have managed this, because Carlisle last season, if I just look at the 2019-20 League Two, I can find out, but they didn't do that well, I don't think. They weren't the greatest, certainly. The Carlisle finished 18th. But to go up to 3rd, I didn't think they've got some good youngsters. I knew that, so maybe it's the youngsters which is helping them do so well. Will they get automatic at the end of the season? I think they lack the experience to do that. I think they'll end up something like 6th or 7th, maybe. I think by the end of the season, I think Exeter will sort of catch up, and I think maybe Leighton, Orient, and Salford and stuff. I don't think they have a consistency in the squad. They have won 10, to be fair. So will they finish? No. And then 21st, I went with Cheltenham, and they're in 2nd. What have I done with this league? I'm sorry, if this is a normal league, you'd expect everything to be on its head. It's sort of like the table's flipped. Because Cheltenham last season, they actually finished 4th, so I don't know what I was thinking, predicting them 21st. I did think they'd be underachievement, to be fair, because I did think there would be sackage involved in Cheltenham, and I don't think there has been. I don't think there has anyhow. I'd be very surprised if there has. No, they've kept their manager, so I think they've kept a lot of the players in the club, I think, so they've not been too bad. Maybe that's why they've done so well. I think their defence is good, and maybe it's that which is making them so well. They do have quite a high goal difference of 13 as well. So very much, again, getting it wrong. 20th, I went with Stevenage. Now, not far off from them. They're currently 23rd. And only 3 points off. I really think they should have been relegated. They've only stayed up, really, down to 2 clubs struggling financially in last season. I mean, Bury got expelled, which meant that only one team was going to be relegated. And then, Macclesfield got minus points. So I did think surely they'd finish low. But no, they've done well. They've not done well, have they? I thought they'd do well. Sorry, I thought they'd do well enough to not be relegated. And maybe they will. Maybe if they find a bit of a form, maybe they will. 19th, I went with Newport, which are first. Yeah, again, not the greatest prediction. I really think I've screwed this league over. How have I managed to so badly get all this wrong? Because Newport last season were 14, so I think it had I think it went one of 2 ways. I think they'll definitely comfortably stay up by 12 points or something because they had a good manager, but they lost a lot of staff and players, so I didn't think they'd managed to get up into League One, so that certainly surprised me. League Two so far has been definitely my worst. 18th, I went with Salford, and Salford are currently 8th. So I don't think I've actually spent any money, Salford, and I think they're probably going to get a new manager, I reckon. I reckon they would. I don't think they will now. Well, they already have got a new manager. Graham Alexander got sacked and Richie Wellens came in. So I was correct by saying they would get a new manager, and they've clearly moved in form from that. They are currently 8th. They're not a million miles. Will they finish in the playoff at the end? No. I think 8th is probably where they're going to finish off, actually. No, not 18th. 17th went with Barrow, and Barrow are 21st. I thought because they're new to the league, I think they've got the same mindset of getting promoted, don't they? And so I thought they'd do well. I mean, they're not done bad. I think 17th could incredibly be likely. 6 points off, so it's a bit of a catch up. They need to get out their 4-game losing run, but I think they need to get back to basics a bit. So maybe Barrow will be able to finish there. I think they will finish a bit lower now, though. 16th with Mansfield Town. They're currently 19th, so I'm not a million miles away with that either. Didn't think they'll get Nigel Clough in, to be fair. They seem to jump all over the table, Mansfield. And so it was actually really difficult for me to predict. And I seem to have done all right with predicting them. They're a bit lower than I thought. They're currently 3 unbeaten, so maybe they will do a bit better. Maybe. 15th, I went with Leyton Orient. And Leyton Orient are actually currently 7th. So I thought they wouldn't actually jump that high up. I didn't think they were good enough to go straight to the playoffs. I thought they'd be mid-table team. And maybe they might be. They may still be. It is very close in the middle of the table, but I think not 15th. Not 15th now. I think probably more likely 9th, maybe. They may even be in the playoffs still come the end of the season. 14th went with Colchester, who currently 6th. Again, very similar reason. The thing is, you do well. They do well every season. And I thought this season, well, they've been so successful, they're just going to sort of wear off on them and they're going to be a bit drab and end up mid-table. It hasn't turned out like that, to be fair. They've been successful again. And the manager, I think, is new to the league. So it might be the fresh ideas which actually have helped them. 13th are Oldham Athletic, and Oldham Athletic are currently 15th. So I'm not going to say that I've done bad with that one, because they're only low on goal difference alone. They do something to jump around mid-table a lot, and I didn't think that was going to change, and it's not really changed. I didn't think they were going to be facing a relegation battle. And they haven't faced a relegation battle really. They've in the last 5 games they've won 4 of them, so they've not done badly recently. Now 12th are with Southend, and the Southend are currently 24th. And Southend, it's difficult because they've been relegated. So will they get over that relegation form? And they haven't seemed to. I didn't see them managing to jump up. They just needed to have faith in their new manager. I don't think that. I actually think they have maybe sacked their manager now. Actually, no, they have kept the faith. They've kept the faith in the manager. So they could finish up 12th. It's a hard old crawl now for me to get them to 12th. They're incredible points behind, so they may even get relegated. I'm gonna have to say it. They may be relegated. I don't think 12th. No. 11th are Harrogate, and Harrogate are currently 17th. So it's 2 ends of the mid-table. They have surprised the league. They are now on a bit of a losing streak, mind you. 3 games losing streak, but if they're still mid-table, they're not bad, and I think they will stay up this season. I do think because of all this, maybe not 11th, but maybe staying mid-table. I think they'll certainly survive. 10th, Exeter, and Exeter currently 5th. There's not too much between the two, to be fair. There's only 5 points straddling it. I think they'll definitely push for playoffs, as they seem to be doing now, and will win many games. And I think they'll have a good Christmas period. And if you look at me now, and they've not done bad, to be fair. Winning the next couple of games will be probably correct. But I think there will be too many losses, and it does seem to be the story of that. They haven't received, they've not received too many, they've received 3 losses, so they're not too bad. Will they finish 10th? There's a potential to things to go wrong, and that's a problem. Probably not now finish 10th, but maybe. Now I went with Bolton 9th. They're currently 16th, so even I, who was being a bit harsh on them, maybe for a lot of people, I think there's a transition season was needed, and this is it. It's a transition season, and they're currently 16th. That's where you expect to be in a transition season. 9th I wouldn't be surprised if they get 9th. They have the quality on the pitch. How many points are they away from? So they're only 3 points away. So it's certainly mid-table in League 2 is ridiculous. Will they finish? But I don't think they'll finish 9th. I think they'll be somewhere else at mid-table, maybe 4th, 14th, or something like that. 8th are Scunthorpe United, and Scunthorpe are currently 18th. So probably not, because I think they did have a transition season last season, and I do think they was going to challenge. But if a manager, I think, is inexperienced, and that's probably why they're in this situation. Have they sacked their manager? I don't think they have. I certainly don't think they have. No, they have kept their manager. So 8th, not this season, no. Mid-table, probably yes, or maybe slightly lower down. 10th for Grimsby Town, and they're currently 20th. So this league is not going well for me. certainly would believe that they have the potential. They've got what they need, but they're not going to. We're not going into the playoffs this season. No, no, not the playoffs. I'm sorry. Lower mid-table probably. It's hard because Grimsby are one of them people. The manager has had good win percentage, and I think they was going to improve, but I don't think they're going to improve now. It's hard for me to say, but I don't think they will. They've lost too many games. Sixth, I went with Port Vale, and I'm actually kind of happy with that because Port Vale are 14th at the moment, but they're certainly starting the season brightly, and it only takes a few games for them to turn that form around. I mean, they're only 5 points off there. Will they reach the playoffs by the end of the season? Maybe not. Maybe not. I think they'll certainly challenge, maybe 10th or something. Thinking about it now. Well, of course, there's a lot of the season still left to go. Fifth, I went with Bradford City. That's definitely wrong. They're 22nd now on a 5-game losing streak. They've lost 9 games all season. So incredibly. I think they're going to be relegated. I'm sorry, Bradford, you're going to be relegated. The manager's done well at Bradford before, and so I think just Bradford's quality is just gone now. It has been on the decline much over recent years. They could just scrape it, I think, but I don't think getting into the playoffs is the season goal this season now. Fourth were Cambridge United, and it did look for a long time that I was going to be correct. They're currently 9th, which is interesting because they have actually been really badly beaten in recent matches. But they were incredibly high up and flying in the playoffs and automatic position for the start. There's always a team which is unexpected, and I thought Cambridge was going to be this. And I think they could still be, to be fair. I don't think they'll win the playoffs, but I think they still could sneak in. There's certainly something there which tells me that they could. Third, I went with Tranmere Rovers, and Tranmere Rovers are 12th. So no, they're not going to get automatically promoted, unfortunately. But will they get into the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. They really need a good run of games for them to do my prediction. They had a bit of a transition season. They don't even need one, to be fair. I think they were expecting to be relegated, and so probably prepared for this long in advance, and brought in the right personnel for it. Second, I went with Walsall. That's also quite wrong. They're currently 11th, so I'm not badly wrong, but they're not where I thought they were. They did have a transition season last season, and it does look a bit like a transition one. They could sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think they will. I think 11th is probably where they'll finish. Then went first with Crawley Town, who are currently 13th. And Crawley didn't do bad at the start of the season, and they've now sort of snuck down. They also have some good players who are experienced. On to the National League. Now, this I don't know how well I predicted. So I predicted currently that last place would be Altrincham. And Altrincham are currently 4th. So hate me all you want, because I'm probably definitely going to be wrong with that one. Can't see them getting relegated now. Will they stay in the playoffs at the end of the season? I think they'll just be outside it, honestly. Maybe 7th. Maybe they'll just sneak in. But maybe not. But definitely not 24th. I apologise for what I said. 23rd, Boreham Wood. They're currently 10th. So I don't think they'll finish 23rd. I think they'll finish mid-table, certainly. Don't think they'll challenge much. I think mid-table is where they're certainly going to be towards the end of the season. I know if they'll be 10th either, then we'll be a bit lower. Have they actually sacked their manager? Because loads of people were saying the manager was actually really, really experienced. When I made it, So let's see who their manager. I do wonder if their manager is the same as last. Can't check. Luke Gerrard. There he is. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry for calling me inexperienced because he's not, but they are still mid-table. But they are. I don't think they'll be relegated. Not anymore. Stockport County, I went with 22nd. And Stockport County currently 9th. I think they may have a chance of getting the playoffs, to be fair. I think I was a bit harsh. Or maybe 8th, maybe just outside the playoffs now. I don't think they'll be relegated either. I think I've been incredibly harsh in the National League. A lot of these. I've had a rejig of the squad, but they still managed to do quite well out of it, to be fair. They've not done too badly recently. So Stockport, I apologise to you as well. 21st, I went with Wrexham, and Wrexham are currently 13th. They've lost the last 2. Will 21st be likely? I want to say 21st. Everything is -1, okay? Or like 1 place higher. Because Macclesfield Town got expelled. Or liquidated. So they'd actually be surviving. Just. So will Wrexham survive? Well, I was very justified, I think, in what I said about that. Because last season they did just survive. So that's very poor on my behalf, right? 20th, I went with Torquay United. And Torquay are currently 1st. Which, no, I've done awful. I've done awful with this league. Really apologise, Torquay. I think you could actually win the league. Looking at the table now. I thought that this wasn't going to be the season. I thought the next season you would be the one which potentially got promoted. So that proves I was wrong. The 19th, I went with Yeovil, and I'm not actually too far away with that. And I think Yeovil have the quality to get out the relegation zone they are in at the moment. So, but the fact is, I think they need a different manager, and I don't know if they've sacked their manager yet. They potentially have. Potentially not, though. Let me just find that out. I'm sorry about this. I just don't really know. No, they've not got rid of their manager, no. It really surprised me, actually, because I thought they would have. So, maybe they will if they're continuing this poor form. They have just won their last game, though, this week, so that'll be alright. 18th with Maidenhead, and Maidenhead are currently 8th. No, not good again. Certainly don't think they'll finish. I think they may even could sneak in the playoffs, although they could finish mid-table as well. They need to be a bit decisive. 17th, I went with Aldershot, and they are actually currently 17th. So certainly look like that prediction could be correct. Aldershot are always one of them teams which don't seem to do that well in recent years. 16th, I went with Barnet, and Barnet are currently 20th. So few results go their way. Yes, I think so. 15th, I went with Solihull Moors, and they're currently 16th. So, and the only reason they're there is because they're only 2 goals below Chesterfield. So, yes, I think maybe 15th is where they may finish at the end of the season, and I wouldn't take that away from them. They could finish slightly lower, could finish slightly higher. A lot depends on it. 14th for Wealdstone, and they're currently 5th. And they have actually done. I think the team I said was going to do really well was Kings Lynn, but the team which has done really well is Wealdstone actually, who have come up. So, will they drop off? It's hard to see. I don't think they'll reach the playoffs at the end of the season. Maybe 10th, but 14th potentially. I did say they were going to do well at the beginning of the season, but maybe slow down towards the end. 13th, I went with Dover, and Dover have done awful this season. I did not expect Dover to do that low. Didn't think Dover would only get 6 points, because Dover are normally one of them teams which are mid-table. So no, that's another one wrong. I mean, they've not got rid of their manager. Again, really question why. But that's just the way it is. Sometimes they can't afford it, can they? 12th, I went with Eastleigh, and Eastleigh are currently 12th. So again, that's very much correct with what I was thinking. Eastleigh always seem to be consistent in mid-table, and it does seem like that the same this year. So I'm disappointed with that one. 11th, I went with Bromley, and Bromley are currently 3rd. Because there's so much closeness at the top at the moment, a bad run of form could easily see them reach 11th. And so I'm not going to wipe that out completely. And I think they will push towards the end of the season in the playoffs. But at the end, maybe drop off, maybe. 10th, I went with Weymouth. I didn't think Weymouth would be 22nd. They're not normally. Well, it's because they got promoted last season. So they're one of them ones which aren't good enough. Their defence is clearly not good enough. Goal difference is -9. So no, don't think they're going to survive this season. No, don't see it. 9th, I went with Notts County. Notts County currently 7th, so I don't think that's too far away. Notts County is still expectation of an immediate return. Playoffs could be likely, but I think they need to appreciate where they are and build a new squad. 8th, I went with Kings Lynn. And they're actually 18th. And so I actually thought they were going to do better because they're the team which I thought was going to carry through momentum. They've not done bad, to be fair. But 8th, I don't think they'll finish there. They're only 6 points off it, to be fair. That just tells you how close it is in mid-table at the moment. So I think they could finish mid-table at the end of the season. Probably a bit higher than they currently are. 7th, I went with Hartlepool, and Hartlepool are 11th. So yes, they could probably just push into the playoffs. They just need to become a bit more consistency. They've got 5 wins, 3 draws, and 5 wins. No, 5 losses. Sorry. So very much need to get more consistent in results if they're going to push to the playoffs. 6th, I went for Sutton United. We're currently 2nd. So that could well change my prediction to make them a bit higher. Will they reach the playoffs? Yes. I don't think they'll win the league. Too many points off, but I think they will reach the playoffs, definitely. 5th, I went with Chesterfield. Chesterfield are currently 15th. But they are on a 4-game unbeaten run. So it doesn't take much at the moment. It's 4 points for them to even get there. So I don't think it takes a lot for them to do that. 4th, Macclesfield Town. Ignore that. They've been expunged. Expunged. Can't remember what it's called. 3rd, I went with Dagenham and Redbridge. I'm actually 18th. And I always thought Dagenham and Redbridge were a lot more better than that. Because Dagenham and Redbridge, it wasn't long ago, they were in the Football League, wasn't it? So they've clearly dropped off a cliff recently. Oof. I need to bear that in mind for next season predictions then. Because I thought they were going to reach the playoff final. But no. Second, I went with Halifax Town. They're currently 14th, but they're on a 3-game unbeaten run as well. So, glorious run around for FC Halifax Town. Probably not this season, to be fair. Maybe mid-table. Yeah, I think I'm going with mid-table with that one. First, I went with Woking. Now, Woking are actually currently 6th, and I do think they will reach the playoffs. So, I'm still confident enough to think that they will reach the heights of which I predicted. On to the National League North. Almost there. And I predicted Gateshead were going to be ones who were going to be relegated. They're currently 7th, so I've clearly been proved wrong, I hear. I just thought because they were relegated were due to financial insecurity a couple of seasons back, 2017. I didn't think they'd be able to survive the COVID outbreak and get dissolved, but they didn't. And so they've done well and managed to reach 7th. 21st, I went with Chester, and they're actually 5th. Chester, I've apologised for saying you'd finish so low. Certainly not. So yeah, it's because there was joint managers, and I don't know if there's still joint managers at the club. Sorry for that sneeze. It was just right. So do they still have joint managers? Yes, they do. So they must have done well then to manage to get them. Because it's a strange concept, joint managers, because it could result in 2 possible ways. 20th, I went with Leamington, and a lot of people laughed at me when I said that, and I can now see why, because they are currently 8th. But towards the beginning of the season, they were very much down there. They were actually 22nd for ages, but they've changed their form around drastically recently. So I will probably change that now. They are gradually in decline over recent years, but maybe they've changed that. Maybe they'll listen to my predictions like, no, we'll prove him wrong. I do know a good 300 or so, maybe 100 something. Watch this one. 19th, I went with Bradford Park Avenue, and they're actually 15th. Not the greatest. They are actually only 2 points off that point, that placement. So could they end up there? Very much likely if things change, because there's various dips in forms, and it's really hard to tell at the moment who's going to finish where. There's from 7 games of Darlington to 13 games by some, so it's really, you can't really take it by face value, this league at the moment. But they could well end up down there if a couple of results go against them. 18th, I've gone with Alfreton, and Alfreton are currently 20th, so I could see Alfreton ending up 18th. They're only 1 point off it, and I don't think they'll be this low at the end of the season, and I do think they'll be a bit higher. 18th does sound reasonable if you ask me. 17th, I went with Chorley. Chorley are currently 14th, and they were actually really bad at the end of the end of last season and the beginning of this season. They were really poor, but they have now actually got their act together and have started progressing up the table. It's whether they hit a stumping block or not will result whether they finish 17th. 16th, I went with Gloucester City. Now, this is very interesting because I think Gloucester always that team which switch between the leagues. So I do feel a bit sorry for them. They never really seem to have consistently against the same opponents. But they've managed to reach the top of the league. So I definitely didn't expect that one. 16th is not where they're going to finish at the end of the season. They could get automatic, but I think most likely the playoffs. 15th, I went with Darlington. Don't think 21st is a fair reflection where they'd finish at the end of the season. I do think they won't be 15th though either. I think they'll probably be around 19th. 14th, I've gone with Spennymoor, and they're currently 11th, but they're not doing too well. A bit inconsistency. 4 wins, 4 losses. No, 3 less losses, sorry, and 4 draws. So they're a really inconsistent team. So I don't think they'll mount a serious playoff push. I think mid-table is probably a fair reflection. I did think it'd be towards the bottom end of the table, though, to be fair. 13th, I went with Kidderminster, and Kidderminster are currently 2nd, so they're clearly a lot better than I thought. Will they drop off in form? I think they'll still reach the playoffs, actually. But the manager is still inexperienced, so I thought it was going to be a bit of a transition season, but it's not. They've done really well. 12th, I went with AFC Telford. They're currently 6th. So, and by the way, that is actually only 3 points. And so there's definitely, they could drop down a bit. So will they reach the playoffs at the end of the season? They've not got the greatest goalkeeper. Then it's not the strongest, but at least they have them. The goalkeepers, when I checked, there wasn't many goalkeepers. So will they finish in the playoffs at the end of the season? It's hard to tell. They might finish just outside it. 11th, I went with Curzon Ashton. And Curzon Ashton are currently 18th. I think Curzon Ashton are in serious trouble at the moment, actually. I think they could be relegated at the end of the season. Won't be surprised. Or they may just survive. I don't think 11th, really, now. They could turn around their form, though, and manage to get up the table. 10th, I went with Hereford. They're currently 16th. They will finish mid-table, I think. I don't think they'll be pushing, though. I think there'll be a couple of places higher than 16th, maybe, but not too much higher. 9th, I went with Kettering, and Kettering are currently 17th. So again, another one which is really hard to predict because they are a bit inconsistent at the moment and haven't played. They've won 3, they've drawn 3, and they've lost 5. So they could easily gain up a few places, but 9th, maybe not. 8th, I've gone with Brackley Town, and they're currently 9th, and they're only there by 1 goal. So I'm not there, and I think I will probably actually be correct at the end of the season in predicting this. I think this is one of the ones I'm actually fairly confident about. I think there's experience in this squad, in the manager and in the squad itself. 7th, I went with AFC Fylde, and they're actually currently 3rd, so they are in the playoffs. Yeah, I think 7th is a bit too low, but thinking about it, playoffs definitely. I did think when they got relegated. I thought they were actually going to start poorly, so I think they might actually do a bit better. 6th, I was going to go with Guiseley, but now Guiseley are 19th. Definitely not. I think they're also a bit inconsistent at times. With 3 wins, 2 draws, and 6 losses. So they've a lot of losses in there. So will they manage to overcome that obstacle of losing? Maybe not. 5th, Blythe Spartans. 22nd they currently are at the moment, and they're going down. Sorry, there's nothing they can do about it. There's no way. They've played 12 games and one above them. Darlington played 7th, and they've got 9 points. I don't think Blythe Spartans are staying up. Unfortunately for them, they're going down to the Northern Premier League. 4th, we're going with Boston United, and the current Boston United currently 12th, but they did actually start the season fairly well. And I do think maybe that they maybe could mount a playoff chance, or maybe they'll just drift away. It's a make or break time of the season for them. Third, I've gone with Farsley Celtic. They're currently 10th. Won't finish third, certainly, but I think playoffs is a reasonable aspiration. Maybe fourth or fifth. They'll definitely reach for playoffs for me. Second, I've gone with Southport. Southport are currently 11th. Oh wait, no, they're not. That's Spennymoor. Where is Southport? 13th. Okay, so they're 13th. That tells me that they won't reach the playoffs, probably. There could be potential later on. I think mid-table. Maybe 10th or 9th or 10th. And first I went with York City. They were cruelly missed out. And I think they could improve and probably may even get second. I don't think they'll get first. They'll definitely be in the playoffs though, and they may win the playoffs. So yeah, I think York City have got a good chance. The National League South, the final one I did predictions for. The last place I predicted was Dulwich Hamlet, and Dulwich Hamlet are currently 13th. So I don't think they're going to be relegated. But to be fair, at the start of the season, they didn't actually look too convincing, and I didn't actually look like I was very close to what I predicted. But I do think now they will finish mid-table. I think maybe something like 12th would be a reasonable prediction. 20th, I've gone with Ebbsfleet. And Ebbsfleet are actually currently 11th. So again, another team which I think they'll actually finish higher than 11th now. I think they might finish 10th. I think they'll be more pushing towards the playoffs than scrapping with relegation. Because they do have relegation form. I think last season they didn't do too greatly actually. At all. Where did they finish last season? They finished last season. They finished. Did they actually get relegated? They might have done actually. Yes, they got relegated last season. Okay, so that's why I said that. Yeah, I think that'd be hard for the players, but I think they've actually managed to take to the league all right. 19th with Maidstone United, and I don't think I'm incredibly correct with that. Then they'll actually reach the playoffs this season. It seemed like they were on a slow decline, to be fair, looking over recent results. But no, I think they have the potential reaching the playoffs. Not only minutely, though. I think they've managed to get some players now, which they didn't have before. 18th with Chippenham Town. And I think they'll finish more mid-table, to be fair than that. I don't think 18th is fair. I think probably finish about 14th, I think. I think they'll probably be more mid-table than that. Because Mike Cook actually had an awful record. Because he was actually sacked from Gloucester City, I think. But I don't know if he's departed or not. Because I don't believe. Yeah, he's not being departed. So he must be doing an all right job with Chippenham at the moment. 17th, I've gone with Eastbourne. And Eastbourne are currently 5th. No, I don't see that. I think Eastbourne are going to be in the playoffs now. I don't think they'll get promoted from the playoffs. But certainly I think more playoff form now than when I predicted. 16th, I went with Hampton and Richmond Borough. They're also in the playoffs at the moment, and I think they'll stay in the playoffs. Don't see them being lower mid-table, because the thing is, there's a lot of squads which didn't have a lot of players under contract, but we seem to now got quite a lot. So it seems to have changed a bit. 15th, I went with Dartford, and I was completely wrong with that because they're currently second, and they could have a full-on potential to go and win the league. I would go with now either Dorking or Dartford to win the league, or maybe even St Albans. Between them three. So I don't see them in 15th. Their midfield and defence. The defence was good, but their midfield was not the greatest. But it's clearly not needed that. 14th, I put Hungerford, and Hungerford are actually currently 4th. I think they will drop a bit. I think maybe playoffs at the end of the season, maybe. I did actually say that the kick up the backside would happen because they almost got relegated, and because of relegation didn't happen. Was that it provide jolt, and it clearly has provided quite a bit of a jolt to give them into the playoffs. But I thought they were going to only be mid-table. 13th, I went Oxford City, and they're currently 9th. Probably more likely 11th now, but I still think they'd be mid-table team. They don't really seem like to me to be pushing to the playoffs. They may sneak in, but I don't think so. 12th, I went with Welling United. Welling United are actually 20th, and I do actually see them potentially getting relegated, or being one of the teams to be relegated, or in the relegation scrap at the end of the season. They have a good goalkeeper, but other than that, hard to see where they're going to go. The goal difference is -6, so it's not the worst if being down there. They haven't at Waterlooville. I went with 11th, and they're currently 7th. I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs, and I don't think 11th was too harsh for me at the beginning of the season. They have been doing well recently, to be fair though, and have been working their way up the table. 10th, I went with Concord Rangers. They're currently 15th. I think they will honestly stay mid-table. I don't think 10th anymore. They've not been the most consistent side. In their 11 games, they've only won 2, drawn 4, and lost 5. So they've not got a bad squad, but I don't think they've got the greatest either. 9th, I went with Bath City. Now, if Bath City actually really kickstart, they could actually end up in 9th because they have actually performed a bit better. I think they'll be in a relegation scrap at the end of the season, or maybe lower mid-table. They've not done great at the beginning of the season. They've only accumulated 9 points. They've not actually drawn all season, ridiculously, but they've done all right in the recent. They've won 2 and lost 1 in the last 3 games. It's inconsistency and poor form, I think, which won't make them 9th, definitely. 8th, I've put Braintree, and I did not expect them to be 21st. I thought they've been relegated, they're going to try and adjust. They're actually now 3 unbeaten, so I think they could potentially start climbing up the table. I think maybe they'll just about survive. I don't think Braintree will be the one will be relegated. They actually have a Japanese under-19 international, so clearly some player is skillful in that squad. 7th, I've got Tunbridge Angels, and they're currently actually 14th, and I do not see them getting higher than mid-table form they're currently in. And mid-table form they'll probably stay. They did actually have good midfield and striking, but they don't have the best defence, so I don't think they'll push on to the playoffs. They made it, but no. I did actually say St Albans reached the playoffs and reached 6th. They're actually currently top of the league. So will they? Unlikely hold on to the title. But I think playoffs is definitely likely. Will they win the playoffs? I don't see it. I don't see them being consistent enough. But they're the only team which hasn't actually lost. So, I mean, it's interesting. If they continue that vein of form, there's no reason why they can't win the league. If I've got Chelmsford City, and they're currently 16th, and I actually honestly think they'll just stay mid-table now because they've lost the last 5 on the spin. So no, not gonna be for playoffs this season, Chelmsford. Maybe next season, but we'll see that when it comes around to the time. Because I actually thought their defence was really good, but I clearly don't know the league that well. They only have a goal difference of -4, to be fair, and lost 5 games on the spin. That's not that too bad of a goal difference. Fourth one with Hemel Hempstead, and they're currently 10th. So there is potential that they will mount into the playoffs. I think they'll just miss out this season, but I think maybe a few seasons down the line they could get into the playoffs and do it. And I don't think they'll get out of the league this season. Definitely not. Slough Town I went with 3rd, and they're currently 18th. So that proves how badly I know this division. I don't see them doing much better in the future. They're not great. But they always seem to be near the playoffs, though, from when I was looking. And so they seem to have a shocking season in general. Maybe I didn't underestimate them. Maybe they're just not performing to their ability. Second, I went with Billericay Town. Billericay Town is currently 19th. And they've just lost a game, but they were before that 4 unbeaten. So they have an overall good squad, and I think they will climb. I don't have a shadow of a doubt that they will climb, maybe to mid-table. And first I went with Dorking Wanderers, and Dorking Wanderers are currently 3rd. I think they will win the playoffs and probably finish 2nd. So there's not bad. So thank you very much for watching this. I know it's been a long one, an hour and 47 minutes, but see you on history of your club with Manchester City in the midweek, and next week will be the best starting 11 of the Premier League.